Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the monthly Real Estate Tools Boot Camp. We have an entire morning put together for you where we're going to be sharing all kinds of marketing tools, training opportunities, coaching opportunities. We're going to be giving away hundreds of Canva templates for your business, from listing presentations to buyer presentations. We're going to talk about some great technologies that are going to be changing your business. So we put this program on first Friday of every single month. It is a 3-hour program. So typically it goes from 9 a.m. to noon, and you will see there's no fluff involved. There's barely even 5 minutes to walk away from your computer because there's so much great content embedded throughout today's program. So one of the first things we start with at each boot camp is to urge you to have a pen and paper available, because knowledge is not power, execution is power. So you're going to be getting all kinds of great information today, but it's only valuable if you go and execute on it. In other words, don't let the 3 hours just be a waste of 3 hours that you sit and watch a program and then leave, and then nothing is really done with the information. We're going to give you probably 50 or 60 actionable items throughout the program. And we always say take 5 to 10 items that you're going to go execute on, write down on a piece of paper 1 through 10. And as you go through today's program, write down each thing that you commit to executing on after you leave the program, so that down the road, when you look back, and maybe, by the way, you don't even stay for the whole program. Maybe in the first hour, you write down the 10 things you need to execute on. You can always come back to a future class as well. We record these, so you can go to our YouTube station. I always say subscribe to the YouTube station at youtube.com/Laer, Laer training, so that when the recording of the program goes on this afternoon, you'll get a little notification and you can go rewatch the parts that are most important to you. Because really, what is going to matter is what you execute on. So as you go throughout the morning, write down 1 through 10 the items that you're going to go set up and work on. And then as you execute those items, you can come back, rewatch the program, or join us on a future boot camp so that you can continue to execute. We always say we'll try to end it a little bit early. We understand that 3 hours on a Zoom is a really long time. And it's very rare, however, that we end up getting out much before noon, because there's so much great content. This is everything you need to build a successful real estate business. So with that, I'm going to dig in. If you're watching the live version, you can type in questions as you go. As well, we have Sergio that is watching the camp with us. And as we share links throughout the program, he'll throw those into the chat box so that you can click over and check out whatever piece we are talking about at that moment. So let's dig in, and I'm going to first start out at the Laer Program and Services Guide. This is a 40-page magazine, and it is usually used at Laer for onboarding new real estate agents. But it's super helpful as a guide throughout the morning, because it's going to help us have a little bit of direction as far as the marketing pieces, etc., that we're going to share. As well, when you download the guide, you're going to see links embedded throughout it. So for you to get a copy of the Laer Program and Services Guide, you can simply go over to laerrealty.com. That's Laer realty.com /success tools. And you can find a PDF version of this document. And by the way, the first thing I like to tell anybody that's watching is you definitely don't need to be a layer agent to get tons of value out of today. We share everything that we do. We look at it that it's our goal to help every real estate agent become the best version of themselves. So when we share like listing presentations and marketing pieces, they're available for any real estate agent, even if you happen to be at another brokerage. I could see we have a nice mix so far today of agents from the layer brokerage and agents outside. But rest assured, doesn't matter where you work, you're going to get tons of great content throughout today's program. So when you download the guide, the version that we're working off of is the fall 2025 version, because we keep updating this. As we add new tools or new marketing things, we update the guide. So we're working off the fall 2025 version of the program and services guide. I'll give you a brief history of Layer, just in case you're from another brokerage and maybe not familiar with our brokerage. Layer is an independent real estate brokerage. We started in Massachusetts and we have expanded throughout Massachusetts. We have several offices. We're also in New Hampshire, Maine, Connecticut, and Florida. So we're continuing to expand. We have been in business for 11 years, and where we got our name from, Layer, is when we started the brokerage 11 years ago. I had hired a branding agency, and they asked me, what is the goal of your brokerage? And I said, the goal is to attract great real estate agents and build great real estate agents. And they asked, what makes a great real estate agent? And I said, the best agents are strong. The best agents are negotiators of difficult terrain. That just means that really good agents are really good at overcoming obstacles. That's basically what we do all day, every day as real estate professionals. We jump through obstacles to get each transaction complete, to make sure our buyers and sellers are happy. And as we all know, no real estate transaction looks the same. Just when you think you've seen it all in real estate, something else comes up. So the best real estate agents thrive. They do really well with uncertainty, because that's the business. The agents that struggle are typically the ones that have a hard time with uncertainty. Okay, so best agents are strong. They're negotiators of difficult terrain. There's one more piece. The best agents are true protectors of their clients. In other words, they're not focused on a paycheck. They are truly focused on helping people. And 11 years ago, when we put all those words into a Google search, strong, protector, negotiator, the first thing that came up in a Google search was a lion. So I said, that's it. We're going to build our brand around the lions of real estate. In the jungle, lions stay together in layers. Now, we changed the spelling of layer because our layer is the mirror image of real, since we're in the real estate business. So we changed the spelling to LAER. We created the acronym Local Agents Extraordinary Results. And we made our semi-famous lion logo. And I tell people the lion is symbolic to us in real estate, because if you ever see a house that has like a lion statue in the walkways or by the front steps, like guarding the house, that's because the lion is a symbol of protection for the home. We look at it that there is a new symbol of protection for real estate across New England and across Florida, and it is our Layer for Sale sign. So here we are 11 years later. We have about 800 real estate agents in the markets that we serve. So this guide, the Layer Program and Services Guide, is a 40-page magazine. The first few pages define our cultural values. This is important because I always tell agents when you're shopping for a brokerage, make sure your values align with whatever brokerage you're going to. That way you know that you're going to be there for the long haul. And then it talks about the fact that we are independent. I mean, nowadays, more than ever, it's like a big deal to be one of the independents out there. But we're really proud. Not only are we independent, we're one of the largest brokerages in the country, just based on the amount of business that our 800 agents do. So we get ranked every year by Real Trends and the Riz Media Power Broker Report as being one of the biggest, and that's just based on the sheer volume of the business done by our agents. So now we get to the good stuff. As we move through the program and services guide, it is divided into 4 sections. The first section is marketing and branding. Why? Because agents tell us that's what's most important to their businesses. So we typically put that right up front. The next section of the book, and each section is marked by this big yellow and blue bar across it. So marketing and branding is first. The second section is technology. The third section is training and education. And the fourth section is administrative support. But where we're going to spend the first hour to hour and a half throughout this morning is marketing and branding, because that's typically where agents want more support and more systems so that you can really stand out. I don't know about you guys. I think with all of the consolidation happening in our industry with these massive, massive, massive brokers, where like 60% of the brokers or agents are going to be under one brand, basically, it is more important than ever to stand out, because the business is being homogenized, which means we as real estate agents must stand out, because to the consumer, everybody looks the same now. So we're going to spend the next 90 minutes talking about all the ways, and we're going to give you tools that you can use to truly stand out in your business. So we've landed at the first page, which is lairagentservices.com. And this is where we house many of the resources I'm going to share with you this morning. If you're from another brokerage, don't worry. You have access to all of this. The first thing you'll note when you head over to Lair Agent Services, and I'm going to click on it, because this whole booklet has links embedded throughout the entire book. So when you download the program and services guide, you're going to see underlines throughout the whole book. Those are hyperlinks so that you can go explore. The first hyperlink takes you to Lair Agent Services dashboard. And the first thing you'll notice is there's no password. So that means any agent can head over and start using all of the tools and resources that we have on there. Let me give you just a brief overview here of what you'll see on this dashboard. So first, at the very top, and by the way, you'll want to bookmark this, because I promise you it's a resource you're going to come back to throughout your career. We constantly add stuff to this site. Many years ago, when I started in the industry, there was a company called Star Power. And that's how this was designed, the Lair Agent Services dashboard. Star Power was like a coaching company for real estate agents. But what was super unique about Star Power is they had all this awesome content on their site. So you could go to their site and get listing presentations and buyer guides and seller guides. Of course, back then it was like a PDF version. So you then had to take it off their site and then spend a zillion hours making it your own. Now with services like Canva, we make all these wonderful pieces for you, and you don't have to go start from scratch making the pieces. We've done all the work. You just have to go through and do the further customization for your own business. So this is the agent services dashboard. When you look at the very top, you will see that there's some links up here. Some of these really apply to layer agents, but most of the links are really good for really any real estate agent. At the very top, let's go through quickly. The first thing you'll see is the Happy Agent host schedule. That's for the layer 30 plus offices that we have. We have staff that kind of man those offices, they host those offices, and make sure that there's supplies, that there's somebody there in case a check needs to get dropped off or something like that. So if you're a layer agent and, for example, you have a client that wants to drop a document off at an office, you would use this schedule. You'd click over and see which staff are at a particular office on the date and time that you need, so that you know that your client's not wasting time driving over to an office where there's no staff. Second link is the Layer newsletter. This is the internal Layer Den newsletter. We put this out once a month, and it's really just what's happening within the brokerage. So updates like anybody that has had a baby, or somebody who's lost somebody in their life, or somebody that got married. So it tells you what's happening in the lives of our agents who recently joined the brokerage. Plus, we fill it with all kinds of great stuff. Technology tips, sustainability. There's a sustainability corner. We share movie recommendations, book recommendations, things like that. So all kinds of great stuff. Plus, you can see whose birthday it is. Since this is our October newsletter, we put in all the information for the agents that are participating in our Thanksgiving pop by program, things like that. So that's the Layer newsletter, and it's right up here under the Layer news. We also have the recently joined section. These are agents who recently joined the brokerage. And if you click that, it's just going to pull you down to this section. By the way, if you recently joined Layer and you don't see your info here yet, it's probably because we don't have your photo or your bio. We typically don't introduce you here until we have a photo and bio, because we want the other agents to click through and get to learn a little bit about you. So we wait until we have all your information before updating there. Let's see, we have our marketing section, which is going to bring you down here. That's where we're going to spend a lot of time this morning. And the social media assistant section, which is going to bring you down here. We'll cover that this morning as well. Growth and development is going to pull you down to our training and education section. And there's a few other tools in here. Most of this just brings you down further into the page. So let's start exploring down throughout the Layer Agent Services page. Very first section is for recently joined agents. So at the very top, you're going to see, by the way, all of the way we've designed this, because we know real estate agents love exploring real estate. We designed it so our buttons are houses. And as you go and explore these houses, each house is designed, it holds specific keys to your success. So the very first key, if you recently joined, is the Program and Services Guide. That's the book that we started with this morning. So if you ever forget where you can go get that, which is layerrealty.com/success tools, it's always the first button in our site. We also have, if you're a newly joined agent, a frequently asked questions page where all kinds of crazy questions. By the way, if you're a Layer agent and you ever have questions, just send your question over to happyagent@layerrealty.com. That's truly the fastest way to get help at our company. But let's just say it's late at night and you wanted to know something that we've probably answered the question under frequently asked questions. That's where we put all of our most common questions we receive, the Happy Agent team receives. And then also, if you click on Tell the World, you will find all kinds of social media pieces, mailers, things designed for you to announce that you recently joined our brokerage. And then, as I mentioned, all of our new agents, anybody recently joined, we announce them here. And if you click on each person, you can learn a little bit about who they are, what their interests are, what offices they're at. And then we're going to keep scrolling down, and we are at the marketing, branding, and presentation section of Lair Agent Services. This is the area that our people come to the most, because there's a lot of content in here. I'm going to go through some of the main pieces of content. This is where you want to get out your pen and paper. This is where you want to start writing down the things that you should be executing on in your business. Okay, I could see some more people joined. By the way, if you are with any brokerage, you're going to have access to all the same information. So listing presentations, buyer presentations, everything that we show you here, all agents have access to. So I only repeat this several times because oftentimes people think that this is just like a recruiting thing, that we're here just to recruit you. By the way, we'd love for you to work here, but whether you do or you don't, we're still going to provide you great information. So let's explore the very first button under marketing, branding, presentations. Make sure you have your pen and paper out so you can begin taking some notes, because the only way this is going to provide any value to your business is if you execute on some of these things. You must execute in order to make sure that the time you spend here is not simply a waste. So let's first go to guides, presentations, brochures. Now, a couple things I want you to know about this. Most of the content under this is all marketing stuff. So most of the content here is in Canva. So I'll come back to that in 1 minute, because a couple things I want you to know about Canva. But also what I want you to know about this particular page is it can look a little tricky. I don't know why it does this, but it can look tricky because you'll see I just scroll down. And when you get to the very bottom of the page, because there's only one block over here, you think you've seen all the marketing pieces. But in reality, there's a see more button. So you're going to have to keep clicking down to the see more to truly see everything, because there's hundreds of pieces on here. So just keep clicking through, and once you get done, do see more. I always say this is the best way to see everything. It does have the ability that you can search for stuff. So you'll see I'm going to click see more again, because it's tricky. It looks like you've seen all the content, and then when you look closely, there's a button that says see more. So that's the first trick here. Second piece, as I mentioned, most of the pieces on here are Canva pieces. So they're Canva templates. Let's talk about Canva for just a few minutes. Canva is a wonderful tool that most agents use to some extent to market and brand themselves. And what's wonderful about Canva is that before there was Canva, many of the agents couldn't really do great marketing pieces. You either had to use back then like Microsoft Publisher, and some agents use like Adobe Photoshop, things like that. They were not super easy to use. So a lot of real estate agents just didn't have access to great marketing pieces, because it was hard to figure out where you could make them look the way you wanted them to look. So you either had to go learn these complicated programs to build them yourself, or you had to hire people who could do it for you. And always there's a little bit lost in translation when you hire somebody to do your marketing pieces. Well, then Canva came along, and Canva made it so easy for anybody to create their own pieces that I don't think anybody uses Publisher or Adobe for creating great content anymore because everything can be created on Canva. So we've built here a library for you to utilize of all kinds of pieces for your business. I'm going to go into some of the more important ones. I'll also tell you we constantly add to this page. So we add presentations, brochures. So for example, in some of our markets, the market's switching. It's no longer a seller market in many of the areas where we do business. So this year we created a new brochure, which is how the market affects property prices, to explain to our clients why why the neighbor was able to get this price last year, but this house is not going to get that same price this year because the market has shifted. So you'll see we constantly add new content here as there are shifts within the industry when different relevant becomes more relevant than other content. But typically we leave all the old stuff on here as well, so that if an agent sees something that they want to make their own, super easy to do that. So when you buy Canva, there's two versions of Canva. One is the free version. In my opinion, every real estate agent at a minimum should have the free version of Canva. There's also an upgraded version, and I think it's around $14 a month for Canva Pro. And I'll show you the difference between the two. I will tell you that you can use the free version of Canva for most of the stuff here. You're just going to there's one caveat to that, which I'll show you. So free version and paid version. At a minimum, you should have the free version of Canva, and many agents have the paid version. If you're a Lair agent, we'll show you in a little bit, we've moved all of our marketing stuff over to our new Zara marketing platform. The upside to the Zara marketing platform is that you don't have to go in and add your photo, your bio, all that. You only add it once and it adds it to all these marketing pieces. So it's kind of like almost like a Canva on steroids. So I'd say if you're a Lair agent, you really don't have to have the paid version of Canva if you're using our Zara platform. Let's take a look at some of the pieces in here that are available to any real estate agent watching today. For example, we have for sale by owner guides. So if you're out, I think the for sale by owner guide is wonderful, by the way. Let's take a look at it for 1 second. One thing you'll note, none of our content is fluff. It's all really good content because we want our agents to shine when they go out and meet with customers. So this is the for sale by owner piece. I'm going to open it. So if in case you're not familiar with Canva, when you open one of these templates, it becomes your version of the template. So you don't have to worry about changing anything that you've changed. You're not going to change the version that we have on the site. So as soon as you click open, it becomes your version. That means nobody's going to see the changes you made until you print it or download it, and then you can use it in your business, but it doesn't affect the version that we have on our site. So this is the for sale by owner guide. And this particular document is 29 pages. It's like a 29-page magazine. In Canva, you can change anything you wish. You can change logos. You can update photos, bios. You can delete pages. You can add pages. You can change the wording on a page if you don't like it. Anything, you can do whatever you wish with any of these pieces. Now, this particular piece is designed for sale by owners. And the idea is, let's say you drive by a property where the owner is selling their own property. The idea is that you could drop off this item of value. with information on how to price, how to market, professional photography, how to do open houses, safety tips for showing the property, how to make sure they're doing all the due diligence that a buyer would want. Information they need to know about mortgages, negotiating, evaluating offers, the legalities of the transaction, and the closing, the home ready checklist, listing checklists, open house checklist, moving checklists. So it's 29 pages. That looks like a lot of information. And if you're looking at it saying that looks like a lot of work. Well, of course, it's a for sale by owner, and we want to show them how much work we do. Like, there's a lot that goes on, and there's a lot of liability in selling your own house. And we believe this book does a really good job at articulating it. So you can drop off this booklet and it's got your contact info at the end. So you upload your photo, your contact info, your logo, and say if you need any help throughout the process, or if you decide to list with the real estate agent, then make sure you give me a call. So that's one piece. That is the for sale by owner guide. We also have a first time home buyer course. So this is presentation slides. By the way, this particular first time homebuyer course, when we designed it, it was like a multi-week course. So there's a zillion pages to it. We're a huge fan of having agents host homebuyer courses, things like that. So this particular homebuyer course, I think it was like a 7-week program. So you'll see here, this one has 155 slides, which is wonderful if you're having like a weekly home buying education course at your office. But if you're doing like a one-off home buying course, 150 slides, way too much. You'll have to go through and delete out the stuff that is not necessary for your class. So this is a great home buyer education course. We have a kids listing agreement. This is a way to get the kids involved if you are listing a property where there's little kids involved. We have seller intake questionnaires. How the market affects property prices brochures, open house checklist, buyer intake workbooks, marketing plan. We have a great flyer on owning versus renting. How about expired listing packets? We have a wonderful expired listing packet if you're going and reaching out to people whose properties have expired. We also have lots of listing presentations and buyer presentations. The one that you're looking at right here is our high performance home listing presentation and our high performance agent presentation for buyers. This is if you have, for example, a green designation or you're thinking about a green designation, then these are great for agents that have a focus on sustainability. We also have the Understanding Buyer Agency booklet. We have a great document that explains why sellers should offer buyer agent commissions, just opens up the pool of buyers. We have buyer guides, buyer representation presentation, listing presentations. I'll go through some more of these, but before I do that, I want to point out one piece that you may have noticed here. You'll see with some of these pieces, specifically presentations, we have New England versions and Florida versions. The reason for that is at our brokerage, we practice different types of agency in New England versus Florida. In Florida, we're a transaction brokerage, which most brokerages in Florida are transaction brokerages. That means we have a lower level of fiduciary duty to the client in Florida than we do in New England. So what does that mean? We have to revise the promises that we're making in our marketing pieces. So that's why the listing presentations a little different, the buyer presentations are a little different, plus our guides, the buyer guides, seller guides. We just promise less that we're gonna do for the Florida ones versus the New England ones, just so we are abiding by the rules. So I want to show you some of these pieces because they're super valuable. These pieces, some of these pieces are true game changers for your business. Let's start with the buyer presentation. So the first thing you'll notice, by the way, what's cool about Canva is if you like to put this particular presentation is in presentation format. So the idea behind this is you would show up at the appointment and have your laptop present it on, like you could screencast it to the screen in your conference room. But the idea is you're showing somebody a presentation. It's not booklet format. But what I want to show you about the buyer presentation, if you are an agent who does not have a buyer agent presentation, this goes right at the top of your list of things to do. You have to have a buyer presentation. You have to have a listing presentation. Now, up until last year, I feel like everybody had a listing presentation at least. So it made sense to us as real estate agents for the last 20 years to do a listing presentation. When we show up at somebody's house to list it, we do a listing presentation because we are asking the seller to sign a contract with us that binds them for a certain amount of time. And in order to get somebody to sign a listing contract, we have to make them feel really comfortable that we're going to do certain things for them in return for them signing this long-term contract. So that's why it always made sense to us to get that, to have a nice presentation ready. Well, I'd say most buyer agents did not have buyer presentations up until last year. And that was because many buyer agents didn't actually have the customer sign a buyer agent contract. So it was easy to get away with not having a buyer presentation at that time because you weren't asking the buyer to commit anything. You weren't asking them to sign anything other than maybe an agency disclosure, but you weren't asking them to commit to you for a certain amount of time. So it was okay. You could get away with not having a buyer presentation. Well, things have changed now, and agents now are supposed to have a buyer contract in order to take people out to look at real estate. And things haven't changed that a buyer is going to want to feel pretty comfortable to sign a contract with you. So this is one of those things that great real estate agents have a buyer presentation that when a client calls and says, I'm interested in buying a property, we're no longer just jumping in our car, heading out to show them a property. Instead, we are sitting with the agent, sitting with the client, either at our office or at their house, and doing a presentation to show our value, and then asking them to commit to us as their buyer agent for a certain amount of time. So that's why it's important to have a buyer presentation now. So let me give you some highlights of the one we've created. And by the way, these are meant for you to go make it your own. But we put a lot of thought into why we wanted this one the way we have it. So as you go throughout our Canva piece, you'll see there's places for you to add information about you, your picture, your contact information, your logo, your bio. You'll also see that there's a place for layer. We've already pre-filled it with information about our brokerage, but you definitely want to talk about who your brokerage is. You want to show some social proof that you're a good real estate agent. And the easiest way to do that is just client feedback. So testimonials you may have from other clients. By the way, you can delete out any page you want here or change out anything you want. Through Canva, you can do whatever you want. I do want to go back to one piece though. I mentioned that there's a free version of Canva and a paid version of Canva. One of the things you will see is if you're using the free version of Canva, when you open up any of our templates, and if you're using the free version, what will happen is as you go throughout the pieces, sometimes you're going to see a Canva watermark across an image. That is because they have, if you are under the free version of Canva, they have like 1 million stock images that you can choose from. If you're under the paid version of Canva, there's like 10 million images to choose from. Because we're in the marketing business, we like to have the 10 million stock images to choose from. So if you are using the free version of Canva and you run across an image built within any of our pieces that has a Canva watermark on it, you have to change that photo. Canva makes it super easy to do that. You just click on it and then you have to choose from your 1 million photos. Just drag a new photo over because Canva will not let you download your presentation until you've removed the premium image that you have on there. So that's the worst case. If you're using the free version of Canva, you will occasionally have to switch out a photo when you see a Canva watermark because we used an upgraded image from the premium version of Canva in some of these pieces. But other than that, you can use everything, all of our pieces, just an occasional photo switch out if you're using the free version. Okay, back to our listing presentation. I'm sorry, buyer presentation. In our buyer presentation, we created, the way this is delivered is we say, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, we have a 10-step buying process for any of the buyers that I'm working with. And I'm going to go through each of the steps. So we carefully thought out this whole process. And what you will see is the very first step of the process is evaluation, consultation, and representation. This is where you explain to the buyer why being represented is so important, why they should not go directly to the listing agent on the property, all the things, the liability they expose themselves to by doing so, from paying too much for the property to nobody representing their interest. There's a massive amount of liability if they do not get represented. So we put that right at the very start of it. Do I need a buyer agent? We explain why we believe they do. And then we go right into how the buyer agent is paid. So it talks about all the things that we do, what the realtor agrees to do under a buyer rep contract. And then it also goes into all the things that the consumer agrees to do under a buyer rep contract. It then talks about what we recommend is actually cutting and pasting a screenshot of the actual representation agreement into the screen. This is a Massachusetts one. So, and it's probably an outdated one. So the idea is take whatever buyer rep agreement you're using, screenshot it and put it into your buyer presentation. You then explain that how you get paid, how much your commission is, number one, that the buyer is responsible for it, 2, and that 3, you're going to ask the seller to contribute towards that, to pay all or some of it. And so we put all of that right at the very step 1. Why do we do that? That was on purpose because it is our feeling that if you do not address that right at the very first thing, then that is what the buyer is thinking about as you go through the entire process. So in other words, if you're not going to address it first, the commission, then the whole time you're presenting all these slides and you're sharing great information and great value, all that buyer is trying to do is hold on to their thought, like, I hope I can afford this. I wonder how much this is gonna cost. Do I have to write a check right now? That's all they're thinking about, and they're not hearing all the value that you actually provide. So this takes it right off the table. It's like the number one thing we're gonna talk about is why you should have a buyer rep, how I get paid, and how we're gonna ask the seller to contribute towards that. That way, they can let the thought go and enjoy all the other information that you're going to be sharing with them throughout the presentation. So, it then goes into step 2, figuring out a price range, evaluating mortgages, shopping for more than interest rate. Um, this is important to, so all of this comes down to you truly consulting somebody, like really showing your value. Because if you have buyers that only shop for interest rate, that's all they're focused on, then that's all they're going to care about with you too. That they don't understand that there's a value beyond just the price. So talking about mortgages, pre-approval versus pre-qualification, what is mortgage insurance? Step 3, evaluating the communities and things for them to think about, from commuting distance and access to transit. Do they want to evaluate school reports, crime in an area, community services, sensory considerations like airports, trains, farms, area home prices, and property taxes. Step 4 is shopping for a home. This one's really important. So one of the pieces that we included in here is, I will tell all of you guys watching today that if you are not having a conversation with your buyers about Zillow, then they are going to shop for a home on Zillow. Is that good for your business? I don't think so. Because first of all, we know Zillow is not in the business of making sure the client finds the right property. Zillow is in the business of databases, names, phone numbers, email addresses. They are in the business of selling that information. So, in my opinion, you don't want your clients on Zillow. You want them any other place except for Zillow searching for a house. And by the way, it's not even a great place for them to shop for property, which I'll explain in a minute. But here's the trick: you better have a good place for them to shop for real estate. So if you're going to tell somebody you should not go to Zillow to shop for real estate, then you better have an alternative that's as good. And for our company, that alternative is Real Scout. So I'll have our team do a presentation for you shortly on why we love Real Scout as an app. But in my opinion, the reason why many consumers go to Zillow to search for real estate is because many real estate agents use the MLS search for their client. In other words, all the MLSs have free search services where you can put your customer in to get daily emails of new houses that hit the market. And those are not great searches. They're just not pretty. They're not, many of them don't text the person as soon as a new house hits the market. It's just a super underwhelming experience. And Zillow is fun and beautiful and keeps sending you houses. Even if they're not in your market, they're going to keep sending you beautiful emails and texts, if you want it, of houses that have just hit the market. Even if they're not in your price range, you could still look at houses. Even if the house went under agreement last week, they're going to still send you houses. So people like the search experience on Zillow. So number one, you have to embed into the presentation where they can search for real estate. So you have to have an answer for that, and that answer is going to be different for every agent, but have an answer for it. Next, you also have to talk to them about Zillow. You can say to them, listen, I know a lot of people think that Zillow is a great place to search for real estate. In reality, I don't think you should be on Zillow. Here's why. Number one, the search is not a real-time search. In other words, I don't want you to fall in love with a home on Zillow that went under agreement last week. And Zillow does that on purpose because they just want viewers. They're not in the business of finding you a house. So they're not in a rush to update the data on their site, because the more houses they have on their site, the better. That means more clicks and more views. But I don't want you falling in love with the house that's not even available. Number two, you can't do very narrow searches on Zillow. So in most markets, you can only shift a search within $50,000 increments. So you can't do super narrow searches. Three, many consumers are on Zillow and they think they have questions about a property, so they put in information because they want to ask questions about the property. Zillow is not directing you to the listing agent in most cases. Next, for sellers, we know estimates are highly inaccurate. So we also don't want you looking at Zillow to determine how much your property is worth. Even the previous owner of Zillow, his house sold for a ridiculous, I don't remember the exact amount, but it was like 30% under the Zillow's estimate, because it's not an accurate number. And last, this is the most important, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer. I want you to be super focused on the process of buying a home in the coming weeks and months. The last thing you need to be doing is fielding phone calls from all different real estate agents and all different mortgage people. It gets confusing. It adds chaos at a time that you really just want clarity. So if you put your information into Zillow, you are going to get inundated by sales calls from people. So it was super important for real estate agents to understand your buyer presentation and your listing presentation are a checklist manifesto. That means that they allow you to deliver an experience to your customer. First of all, deliver a great experience every single time, so that so that the person who buys a house from you a year ago is getting the same experience as a person who's buying today. That it's not like every um every relationship has like a different view of you, because you're going to be using these as your checklist to make sure you cover all the important things. Secondly, it's going to head off a million problems, because by just talking about Zillow, for example, you're going to head off somebody going to Zillow to look for a house. Then they get contacted by an agent through Zillow, and they're off now looking at real estate with two agents, potentially causing a contractual obligation to two real estate agents. So it's our job to educate them as to why they should not be on that site looking at real estate. But also, this buyer presentation is a checklist manifesto to head off all kinds of other problems. So also, we want to explain to our buyer what to do when they go to open houses. Hey, it's okay if you want to go to open houses, but number one, if you know for sure you're going to an open house, let me know. I'll call ahead and just let the other agent know that you're coming. Number two, make sure anybody that is hosting the open house knows that you are represented, so that you don't end up getting yourself into a contract obligation with some other real estate agent. Also, you can explain to your person, your client, what you, or potential client, what to do when they see an off-market property, that you could still help them purchase an off-market property. Step 5, property due diligence. This talks about all the things that you do for your clients to head off any potential legal issues. So tax records, maybe you do a CMA on the property that they're looking at, any type of due diligence that you do on a property is included in step 5. Step 6 talks about pricing and offer strategies, what you do for bidding wars. Step 7, writing the offer, what to do when an offer is rejected, accepted. Step 8 talks about inspections, all the different types of home inspections that are available. What to do if a house has a zillion repairs? What are all the options that the buyer now has? What a home warranty is if you're using home warranties in your business. Step 9, appraisal and mortgage conditions. What is an appraisal? How to prevent mortgage declines. Again, we're heading off potential issues for the buyer. So we do not want them buying a car, financing furniture, co-signing for a debt, moving money, quitting jobs, changing jobs, or not paying a bill that could end up on their credit report. Then we talk about homeowners insurance, things that they should know. So for example, in Florida, if the house is 10 years old, you've got an issue right off the bat. Like these are the kinds of things that you embed into your presentation so that you don't get up to the day of closing and find out you can't close. And then step 10 is the closing. Talk about what a final walkthrough is, some of the closing documents they're going to see at the time of closing, and all of your values. So any of these pages can be changed out. As you can see, we put a lot of work into it. We also close it out with letting them know that at our brokerage, we are all realtors, and the advantage of working with somebody that is a realtor, since not all real estate licensees are realtors. And then our final thank you page. So that's just the buyer presentation. And we have the same on a listing presentation. By the way, I want to just show you quickly on the listing presentation. We'll go to listing presentation. All of these you can turn into your own. You can add your contact info. And like I said, if there's pages you don't like or things that you want to add, then you can do so. But some of the things I like about the listing presentation, let's see. Oh, this is my favorite part. All the things that a listing agent does. So why would you work with a realtor? First of all, that we abide by a code of ethics. I think it's really important that we embed why we are realtors into both our buyer presentations and seller presentations so that the consumer understands the difference. But also we go into all the things that we do as a real estate agent to get their property sold. Because these are all the things. How many people, first of all, how many of you guys actually got into the business thinking it was easy? And now that you're in the business, you're like, holy cow, the amount of work that goes into just getting one transaction closed. So that's what we try to articulate on this document. Other little things, you have to go through and understand all of the little nuances that make you different. This is so important in our new world of homogenized mega organizations that every real estate agent looks the same. You got to go through and say, what makes me look different than everybody else? And through your presentation, you update it. So whether it's a listing presentation or a buyer presentation, it's important to understand that they're working documents. So they are checklists. They're pretty checklists because you're presenting them to people, but they allow you, as you move through your career, 1 year from now, 5 years from now, that as you constantly add to it. So the story I like to share is that several years ago, I had a top agent in Billerica call me because she was really bummed out that she did not get a listing that she thought she was going to get. And this agent, well, first she called the seller and she said, could you tell me what I could have done differently, just so I know for the future how to articulate my value better. And the seller said to her, we liked you and the agent we hired equally the same. You guys were like both really, really good. And it was so hard to decide. And the reason we chose this other agent is because she does a lot with the cancer organization, and my wife had cancer. And so that's an important cause for us. Now, what was interesting about this is my agent who had called me, she literally does so much charity fundraising for cancer research. Definitely more than any other real estate agent I know. She has raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for cancer research. She has done like the Jimmy Fund walk every year for more than 20 years. She also like volunteers every weekend. She's a part-time free worker at a wildlife refuge. Like, this girl dedicates a great deal of her life to charitable endeavors. So I said to my agent, I said, I think it's wonderful that you do all that stuff, but do you put it on your presentation? Do you talk about it when you go on an appointment? And she said, no, I never do, because that's not why I do it. And I said, well, it cost you the listing because you didn't talk about it. I understand it's not why you do it. That's not your intent, is to go get business with it. But at the end of the day, the consumer wants to know who you are as a human being. And you lost the listing because you weren't better than the other person at articulating who you are as a human being. So that's what I mean, is that with these presentations, you will see opportunities throughout your career where you can go back and say, I lost a listing because I didn't talk about the fact that I've raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for the Susan G. Komen Fund. I'm going to add that slide into my presentation so that at least I will never lose another transaction because I chose not to talk about it. The truth is, we don't know what each person, why each consumer chooses us. It could be all kinds of things. So that is why you must have a great presentation, a great buyer presentation and a great seller presentation, because you don't know what is going to get this consumer to choose you over another real estate professional. So all of these are meant to articulate your value. All of these can be customized as you like. And that's basically it. I'm not going to go through all the pieces to it because you guys on your own time can do it. But I will say this. If you do not have a buyer presentation, that has to be number one on your list of things to execute on after you leave today's program. Number two, if you don't have a listing presentation, that has to be number two thing that you're going to go execute on after you leave today's program. Next, number three, in my opinion, every real estate agent should have a buyer package, a seller package, and an investor package. A package would include like a folder with your logo on it, plus pieces that apply to each of those. So if it's a buyer package, you might go up, we have like the buyer guides. So I'll show you a few pieces to put into these packages, because none of the stuff I'm telling you, the buyer presentation, the seller presentation, plus a buyer guide, seller guide, and investor guide, none of these are heavy lifting because we've literally done 90%, probably 95% of the work. These should not be heavy lifting because it's all here for you. But if you're doing a buyer package, you are going to probably put this buyer intake form. This is like a 6-page document that asks all kinds of questions for the buyer about what they're looking for, time frames, what are the things they must have in things like that. Maybe you put this owning versus renting flyer. Let's see. Definitely the buyer's guide. So that's like a 14 or 15 page guide about all the things that you do for buying, working with a buyer. We also have these cool, we have one for purchase, like a buyer, and one for seller. These are just like a template, like a flyer template, and it shows the whole process on a Monopoly board. So this one shows the buying process on a Monopoly board. I would put that in my presentation or in my booklet. This trusted vendors list. So as you build a list of trusted vendors that you work with, from like mortgage, closing attorneys, people that are involved in the real estate transaction, but also people that do like landscaping, contractors, things like that. People who you know, like, and trust, put them on your trusted vendors. Those can go in all your packages. We also have these little local guides. So like if the buyer's property or seller's property is in a particular area, you can do these little guides that are the top 10 places to visit in those areas. So you kind of can pick and choose. You also should have a brochure about your company. So we have our Lair brochure here. Seller package would have like the seller book, the seller monopoly piece, your vendor package, the seller intake form. Investor package would have the investor booklet we have here. That's like a 12 or 13 page booklet on investing in real estate. I put the vendor form in there as well, maybe a locals guide. So just take a few of these pieces and put them into your packages. The reason I love these packages, by the way, some agents say, well, I'll wait until I have a client before I do my packages. That is like telling the universe that you're not open for business right now. So I say go do your packages right away, because if you have 10 buyer packages, 10 seller packages, and 10 investor packages, that is telling the universe you are open for business. And I promise you that the energy that exudes from you, because we are transmitters of energy, the energy of having these projects done, your packages done, attracts business. Because people around you will have an energy. This person is a real estate agent, I'm going to reach out to them. And you're not going to be in your head saying, I hope this person doesn't look at me because I don't have anything to give them if they call me about real estate. So tons of pieces here that you should definitely go take a look at. We're going to head out of the marketing section because there's so much more here to explore. But most important pieces for your checklist of things you're going to execute on: your buyer presentation, seller presentation, your buyer package, seller package, and your investor package. We have another link right here of NAR settlement resources. I'm not going to even click on it because hopefully you don't need this, but we wrote a whole book of all the NAR changes from last year, how the forms changed in each of the states we do business in. The only thing you might want to click over there for is we put together some great articles from different places. If you have a seller that doesn't understand why maybe they should offer a cooperating commission to buyer agents, there's some great articles in there about that. Also, there's some great articles in there about why a buyer should seek representation. So under the NAR settlement resources, hopefully you don't need the book about how to fill out the new forms, but there's all kinds of other stuff that would be helpful if you are finding a buyer that thinks they don't need an agent, or a seller who thinks they don't need to pay a buyer agent. Social media assistant, we'll have Sergio from the marketing team give you a little demo on that later. Special marketing requests. If you are a Lair agent, as you know, we have tons of marketing resources. But if you want something special just for you, maybe you want an update about what's happening in the housing market in your area so you can share it on social media. Maybe you want a really special brochure for a really nice listing you have. Maybe you need an ad created for you. You're advertising in a church bulletin, for example. We can do all that for you. Just go to special marketing requests. Next button is open house resources. All kinds of cool stuff here. Specifically, what I wanted to show you is a few things. Number one, we have some cool like welcome signs and interior signs that you can customize so that if you're expecting a busy open house and you want to post some signs around the house of things that you think people should look at or pay attention to as they're walking through the house, those are good. But I really like these surveys. This is going to be a game changer for many of us as the market shifts. So for many, many years, we were so used to just putting a house on the market and it would sell. Now that is not happening in many markets. You're putting a house on the market, and I can't tell you how often I get a call saying I put a house on the market last week and nobody's looking at it. What do I do? Agents that haven't been in the business for very long don't understand what the heck do I do when nobody's looking at my listing. So we're moving towards changes in many of our marketplaces where price matters. And it's more of a buyer's market. That means that we have to start requesting price reductions. In fact, we have to set expectations when we're doing our initial appointment with the seller that there's a chance that we might need a price reduction. But I love these open house feedback forms. These are great. So oftentimes at an open house, any agent just uses like a sign-in sheet where you put in, the customer fills in their information. But the open house is truly a cool opportunity to gather information from the market. Because who is the market? It's not us. The market is the people out looking at real estate. They are the market. So these open house feedback forms are wonderful for helping us gather information from the market so that we can determine, do we have a price problem, a floor plan problem? Do we have a curb appeal problem? So this is a nice, simple form. And instead of just having somebody sign a useless sign-in sheet that gives us a name and phone number, let's use the market, the people coming in, to gather information in case we have to go back to our seller and ask for a price reduction. So I love this open house feedback form. You guys can customize it any way you want. And we have some other cool things. If you like to give out little handouts at your open houses, we created these little pop-by tags for microwave popcorn. So you can just customize them, print them, tape them, or tie them onto your microwave popcorn. And it basically says, thanks for popping by my open house, so that you have a little giveaway. Make that a little bigger. So you have a little giveaway. The other piece under open house resources I think is wonderful is the kids open house stuff. So this kids open house section just gives you like little coloring things, mazes. So at your open house, just to set up a little area for if a buyer comes in and they've got some kids with them, bring them over to the kitchen table where you have some crayons and some stuff to keep the kids occupied, so the parents can actually take the time to go slowly through the house to determine if it might be something for them. So all kinds of cool resources under the open house section. Next, commercial resources. So one of the areas we have been really growing this year specifically is the commercial real estate business. Because the market shifted last year, the expectation has been that agents were going to do less business this year than they did last year. So if you wanted to do the same amount of business or even increase your business, you had to find new niches to go into. And so for many real estate agents, the new niche was commercial real estate. So We have a commercial listing presentation here, some commercial valuation models, some training resources. But one thing I wanted to point out is this Join Layer Commercial Network, because that's just an email network. If you join that group, you'll get invitations every month, because every month we've been doing training classes on all different pieces of commercial real estate. Last month was a 90-minute commercial leasing class, and we're doing another part 2 to that commercial leasing program this month. Every month there's something unique and different, but it all pertains to training on commercial real estate. So any agent from any firm can join our email list, and you'll just get email invitations to our upcoming training classes, which are all on they're live Zoom meetings, like the boot camp is. Okay, that's our commercial piece. And then I'm going to come back to signs, apparel, and marketing. I do want to point out the Roar report, because this is a piece of great marketing for agents to engage in. In real estate, there are a few different types of newsletters available for real estate agents. You have email newsletters or print newsletters. This is a 4-page consumer print newsletter, and it comes in 2 formats, 8.5 by 11 or 11 by 17. And basically, you can change out any piece of this. We put these big red splotches so you know what you have to change on it. But these are wonderful for to put in all your marketing. But specifically, we do a lot of classes about building a vendor referral program. And these are wonderful for writing a little article about a preferred vendor, and then going to the vendor and asking if you can display these at their place of business. I've said a few times that I went over the summer to the local hardware store in my marketplace, just a little tiny hardware store, and I was delighted to see that one of our agents had the Roar Report newsletter in a brochure holder right at the front checkout. That's what these are for. So you can highlight vendors, and then, for example, your hairdresser, do a little article about your hairdresser, and then take it and say, can I leave 30 of these in the waiting area for consumers to pick up in case they need a real estate agent? So you can cut out any section of these. These are all like ready to go. You basically just customize it and go, but many agents do take out an article. They'll delete out one of the articles so that they can add an article about a vendor that they're featuring. Okay, so that is our Roar report. And let's see. Under logos and images, if you're a Layer agent, you can access all of our company logos for anything from commercial. We have special logos for some of the markets we do business in, like Florida, Cape Cod. We also have a whole section here of seasonal pop-by tags. If you're an agent that goes out and visits your clients on a regular basis, which I hope you are, we always say go bring a small item of value with you. So we give you tons of different tags here, so you can do a low priced pop by. So for example, let's say that we're heading into the holidays, a nice inexpensive pop by is gift wrap. So you do these labels, you print them, tie them to your gift wrap, and it says, thank you for helping me wrap up a great year of serving you, and your referrals. And then you put your information in there. So all of these are customizable. We have tons of different ones to choose from. And those just make you look good when you go out and visit your past customers or your prospects doing your pop buys. We also have 2 other buttons here. The first one is our listing description generator. Many agents are using ChatGPT now. Sometimes if ChatGPT can be a little bit clunky for doing a listing description, You can do one here. This is open to any agent. All it does is take your description and it emails it directly to you. We don't receive it. So if you're a layer agent, don't think that just because you filled this out that now we have the information for your listing. We don't get it. It just emails it directly to you. So this is like you fill out the questionnaire about your new listing and the system will email you your listing description. Disclaimer alert. You have to read it. You have to double check it before you put it into MLS because AI is not good at recognizing fair housing issues. So you must read the listing description to make sure you're not making a fair housing violation in any of the words that are being used. So definitely read the listing description if you use the generator. And then we also have an agent bio generator. One of my pet peeves is real estate agents who don't have bios online, like on their website. They just kind of think it's not important. But a bio is like your resume. And what we do as real estate agents is apply for jobs every single day. We're applying for a job every time we meet with a buyer, and we are applying for a job every time we meet a seller. So all of your stuff, your marketing pieces, your website, everything should have a really nice picture of you and a bio about who you are as a human being. So we help you create a bio with our agent bio generator. Again, that doesn't go to us. It goes directly to you. It emails it to you. So then you can put it wherever it needs to go. So that is everything that's under marketing, branding, and presentations. I did skip over a couple of things, which I will come back to later, but I wanted to take a few minutes to introduce our Chief Sustainability Officer, Craig Foley, who's going to talk about a little bit about sustainability, which is his expertise. Craig is nationally renowned with the National Association of Realtors for his work on sustainability. He's kind of famous too. He's been mentioned on the news in North Carolina just recently for the work he does. But he's got a special spin on our his presentation today.
Yeah, thanks, Stacy. You know, I listen to you. I'm at this event every month. I love hearing you kind of unpeel the onion of what it means to be a great real estate agent. And you do that extraordinarily well, explaining what an extraordinarily tough business it is and how complicated it is to be successful in the business, and then opening up these tools that, as you said on Canva, are full. We can unpeel all of this stuff and select the few things that really work for us to describe how we work best in our business. And we have resources, I think, unlike any that are out there. And so I'm thinking about, I'm going to just touch upon quickly sustainability. So in the agent toolbox, you can go to our sustainability toolkit. And a lot like the tools and resources that Stacy has been talking about, there are specific tools and resources for agents that have become knowledgeable and competent in this very rapidly growing part of the marketplace, where homeowners and certainly new construction is moving towards higher degrees of energy efficiency, significantly higher, putting renewable energy, putting solar panels on their rooftops. We have 150,000 homeowners in the state of Massachusetts that have done that. How do we handle that in a real estate transaction? So we have tools and resources here for you. And if there's one to just give you a little insight about how rapidly this part of the business is growing, click on the Green Building Registry, this little piece down here. And, in my case, I live in Melrose. If I put in Melrose, Massachusetts into the Green Building Registry, this map will pop up. And there's about 7,000 homes here in Melrose. We're just north of Boston. And 700 of them have significant green building improvements on them that are listed on this registry with their addresses on them and the types of improvements that have been made, including, if I look across the street, the building across the street has solar PV on it. I can pull down all the data that I need about that system when I'm listing that home and putting it on the marketplace, which our MLS in Massachusetts MLS PIN requires the fields to fill those out. So there's a lot going on in this part of the industry. Stacy, as you know, you're a green designee. That is a really, really important to add to your toolkit as another way to be successful in this business. And my feeling, Stacy, is, and I'm going to cut this short and then kind of talk about being a realtor as well more deeply. But I feel very strongly that agents that have taken the time to become competent in this part of the business are agents that, if you're not competent in this part of the business, you want to partner with, or maybe even considering referring over a listing that has solar panels on the rooftop to an agent that knows how to properly value that home and make sure it's recognized in the appraisal, which, actually there is a process for that, right? And you might want to think about actually referring that business to an agent that has a green designation, or at least partnering with them so that you can learn about that process. I feel very strongly about that we've got to we've got to make sure that we're serving our clients that have made these kinds of improvements in their home in the best way possible, and it requires a different level of knowledge and competence. But Stacey, I'm trying to figure out how to unravel the onion of being a realtor, of the National Association of Realtors, what our trade organization means. And, I was at the installation for the new set of officers last night for Massachusetts Association of Realtors. And Julie Oakes was there, actually, who's one of our great realtors at Lear, and Ann Chatfield and Paula Savard, who I'm going to talk about in a little bit. But Julie and I were sitting there talking, and she said to me, actually, Stacy, something that really resonated, and I feel like I want to share this, kind of on the fly here. But she said to me, "Why aren't more Lear agents here?" And I thought that was a really good question, an honest question. That speaks more loudly to the fact that, next week I'm going to be flying to Houston, hopefully, if the airports are still running next week, and coming back on Monday for our NAR Next conference, the annual conference for realtors that'll be in Houston, because of the work that I do on committee work there. And I know Paula Savard will be there as well. Why do, and yesterday I paid my dues, Stacy, right? I paid $704 to Greater Boston Association of Realtors, Massachusetts Association of Realtors, National Association of Realtors. And I know that, on top of your MLS dues that you're paying on a quarterly basis, there's a lot of money that comes out of realtors' pockets. And I know people wonder, why do we do this? Why do we do this? And can I ask you to, because many people don't know who Paula Savard is, Stacy, and I know you're as big a fan of her as I am. Just let people know who Paula Savard is from your perspective, and then I'm going to add some layers to the onion of unraveling Paula Savard for everybody on here on the work that she's done over the course of time. How would you describe Paula, I guess?
So Paula Savard has been a practicing real estate agent for at least the last 40 years. She has been involved with the National Association of Realtors on multiple levels, the local boards. She has been involved with the MLSs. Like, she is a true rock star in the industry. So, and I think first of all, in Massachusetts, I think everybody knows Paula Savard because of the influence she's had in our industry over the last the last 30, 40 years. And we're lucky enough to call her a layer agent because she joined our brokerage with her brokerage about a year ago. So she's truly a rock star.
She absolutely is 100%. She is the first female president for Massachusetts Association of Realtors back in 1987,
Wow.
which is interesting. You know, how the industry has been involved over the 100+ years we've been in the industry. Women weren't even allowed into to be members of National Association of Realtors until, you know, relatively recently. You women, Stacy, weren't even allowed to get mortgages on their own until the 1970s, right? I mean, how much the industry has evolved as well, and Paula has been at the very lead of that, right? So I brought up a page that's on the back end of the NAR website. Anybody can access it. You have to put your, you know, your realtor number in there and stuff to log in. But I just want to show something to you, right? To give you an example of unraveling how much work Paula's done. And why is it that there are some realtors out there that not only pay their annual dues and don't complain about them, but they also, you know, volunteer for committees at my local association, Greater Boston Association of Realtors. I'm a member of the Sustainability Committee. At Massachusetts Association of Realtors, I'm on the Government Affairs Committee. And for National Association of Realtors, I've been serving on the Executive Committee for the last couple of years. So why, and, you know, and on top of that, Stacy, I pay, you know, I donate typically $1,000 a year to RPAC, the Realtor Political Action Committee, right? So, you know, why, I guess the question is, why is it that we have realtors that not only pay their dues, but do all of that extra work? What's in it for Paula Savard, I guess, right? Why has she been so engaged in this? So this is again, you can find this in the back end of the NAR website. It's really not hard to get to this early. But I'm going to just, because we've just released our future appointments for committees at National Association of Realtors, and you can see the number of committees that happen at the national level. And many of these are reflected at larger local boards like Greater Boston Association of Realtors and at the state level as well. But there's literally 100 committees here for people to participate on, right? And I'm just going to go back and look at future appointments by state. So we can also click on whatever state that you're in. I'm in Massachusetts, so I'm going to click on that, obviously. And you can see some of the realtor leaders here that volunteer leaders voluntarily given their time, energy, and money to show up to a couple of events a year, right, down in DC for the realtor legislative meetings, to engage with our legislators at the House and at the Senate. We have FPCs, federal political coordinators, that are assigned to each one of those legislators. We have state political coordinators. I'm a state political coordinator for Senator Michael Barrett in Lexington. He's a real leader in the energy sphere, the stuff that I really care about. And I volunteer my time. I give extra money to Senator Barrett because I believe in him as a political candidate, right? So I'm going to just hit on Paula here. Because what's cool about this, if you hit on any one of these members, you can see she works for Lear. You can see a history of their work with the trade organization. And I just want to highlight Paula, Stacy, because it's kind of crazy, right? When I go back through this list, it's one of absolutely the longest lists of anybody that's ever served our community that you'll see at National Association of Realtors. Mm-hmm. I mean, it literally, you know, the first time she served on the Membership Policy Board Jurisdiction Committee in 1981, I'm 62. That was the year I graduated from high school, Stacy, right? And Paula has, you know, continually worked for and with our trade organization as a volunteer leader to continue to move the ball forward. because we are, without a doubt, the strongest uh, um, uh, and biggest lobbying firm in Washington, D.C., rivaled only by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. And not only that, but we lobby at our local state houses, at our local area, local jurisdictions for zoning changes that can increase housing, right? For all of the things that move the ball forward to protect our business. In Massachusetts, you remember, Stacy, when we were going through COVID, right? We were deemed an essential worker. Realtors in this state were deemed an essential worker. And that's because Massachusetts Association of Realtors made that happen. Our state lobbyists made that happen, right? We're seeing policy happen at the federal level right now and new policies being created. But again, the work that Paula has done over the years, you can see she was a committee liaison not once but twice, and that's a really important position for our trade organization. She's coordinating several committees and making sure their priorities and what's happening is being communicated to the leadership team so that they know what's going on, right? It's just, and then she became a DSA recipient. What does that mean? Distinguished Service Award recipient. We have 2 of them in the state of Massachusetts. Paula is one of them. That is the highest recognition you can really get as a member of our trade organization. So, again, what's it? Ashley, do you have a question? I mean, I'd love to answer
No,
any
I just wanted to touch on your point about Paula getting the DSA. So her local board, NICMAR, at their, I think, June award, I forgot when it was, they created a distinguished service award and named it after her.
Yes, that's very appropriate. Absolutely. But it's just interesting to me that this tension, Stacy, that I certainly get. I mean, the settlement happened. My role is I serve actually on executive committee because of they've added a set of subject matter experts. So I'm very honored to be the first person assigned as a subject matter expert for sustainability on executive committee. I've been serving there from the end of 2023. I'll serve on executive committee through the end of 2026. And so I'm one of the 60 members that voted on the settlement, right? What was our action going to be at National Association of Realtors to deal with the settlement? I've got a front row seat to see this stuff, and it's a complete honor to do that, to understand how organized real estate really works, that we're 10% of GDP, Stacy, and that, I mean, organized real estate covers so much, including insurance, home inspections, the building community, and then, of course, after the time of sale, those homeowners that go out and buy new furniture. We don't want them to put that on their credit card before they close, as you know, Stacy. All of that is part of 10% of our national GDP. And without our trade organization, and I know I'm going completely off topic here from the sustainability world that I specialize in, but without our trade organization, I don't think, Stacy, that we would be a profession like we are. And so I just felt like I needed to advocate a little bit for that, because I know, particularly this time of year, dues are coming out. Oh God, that's so painful to pay, but what does it mean? And why is it that so many members have actually gone above board because they see so much value in what our trade organization does and represents us as an industry? And I'll say this too, Stacy, because I've been lucky enough to work on, a bunch of committees, at all levels. And if there's anyone that is interested in kind of figuring out how to unravel these 100 different committees and how they might work for you and your interests in real estate, I would be absolutely happy to take a phone call from anyone that has an interest in trying to figure out how you actually do this, what all of these committees mean, how they work. One of the things that's going on right now with the Federal Taxation Committee, they're going to have a motion that's going to come in front of Executive Committee on next Sunday for the Executive Committee meeting that will be supporting a motion that will support tax incentives for homeowners, making their homes more resilient to a changing climate. Obviously, I've been in contact with them for my sustainability role. That's something that I'm going to be able to easily support and stand for when that committee comes before Executive Committee to present that proposal. So just the level of work that goes on here from a policy standpoint, you know, it's confusing. It's kind of overwhelming when you look at all of this stuff. But if you need someone to help unravel this stuff, I just want to say I'd be happy and honored to help anybody out, Stacy.
All right, awesome, good stuff. By the way, I want to show you guys, so yesterday when Craig asked if he could talk a little bit about being involved with the National Association of Realtors, things like that, I said, yeah, definitely. I'm like, as a broker, this is one of the hardest things, especially this time of year. I get probably 10 requests a week that come in through Happy Agent where somebody says, do I have to pay for the realtor membership? And I take time so I don't blow people off. I write a very thoughtful message every single time because I think it's so important. And you guys will see, like, being a realtor is embedded into everything. So it's embedded into the program guide. So let me show you this, where we started this morning, which was the Layer Program and Services Guide. Whoops. Okay, we're back at the Layer Program and Services Guide. If you go to the end of this, you will see I have a page that is dedicated to being a realtor. And what I say about being a realtor is, there we go. So why do we support being a realtor organization? Well, number one, look at the very bottom of the page. You will see a yellow taxi, a travel company. Like, there's so many companies that don't exist anymore because they didn't have a trade organization. It ruins industries. And I firmly believe that the only reason we still have a business is because of the realtor organization. So when you see large companies attacking the realtor organization, know that that is their self-interest, that they are trying to replace something. They are trying to ruin and get rid of the trade organization because it's in their personal best interest. Doesn't mean it's in everybody's best interest, it's in their interest. So number one, the National Association of Realtors protects our ability to do business. Number two, they protect homeowners. So for example, the last time we went through a recession and there was millions of people in short sale situations, the first people to do short sales on their properties, imagine that you short sale a property by 150 grand, and then you have to pay taxes on that because that 150,000 that the bank forgave was looked at as income, which means now you have to pay income taxes on the 150,000. It is the realtor organization that stepped in and said, wait a second, these people are in they're short selling the property because they don't have the money to pay the mortgage. We can't be charging them $50,000 in income taxes on that. Number three, I do think that they set the bar for our industry. Number four, by the way, that's why sometimes they're attacked, is because they don't like that there are organizations that don't want somebody setting the bar because they think they can make more money if there is no bar. Also, they advance technology for real estate agents. They have this whole REACH program that basically they go out and find really great technology that supports our industry. And this is what I'll say about anything you invest in your life, not just the realtor organization. But it's your job to turn it into an investment. Like, it's your job to make sure that if you're putting money into something, make it work for you. I can think of 10 different ways that you can make your $600 back from being a realtor. And the number one that I always say, only because I use it all the time, I'm a property investor. I buy real estate and I have RPR in my hand and I can get a CMA in 10 seconds on any property. So I think every real estate agent should be using RPR. And if this was not part of being a realtor, I'd pay $600 without even thinking about it for RPR access. But that's what I'm saying. Like, you got to turn it into an investment, that it's not an expense. It is truly an investment in your business. And one of the ways you can do that is by getting involved. So definitely we support the realtor organization. I wish it was easier to do that, because I was telling Craig it's the hardest time in the industry in the 25 years I've been in business to fight for it, because as real estate agents and as a broker, we're fighting every day for everything. I don't want to have to fight to explain to people why this is good. I want you guys to get out and engage, so that it's the one bill every year, like Craig said, that you're like, yeah, this protects my industry. I'm in. I've got $600 for that. I always said I wish it was more, so that, I mean, the more you pay for that, the better the bar is, I think, for the industry. So
I think all of that is true, Stacy, 100%. I just want to thank Lindsay for all the comments she put in the chat. Thanks, Lindsay. We appreciate you definitely, and how much you absolutely get it. I want to say, I just want to close with one other thing too, because politics is a really hard discussion, Stacy, these days, because, we have, and I hate to see it. I hate to see this because it sets such a bad example for our children. But you see the way members of the House and even the Senate, which when I was a kid was described as the, best legislative body in the world, going at each other in such ugly, terrible ways, the name calling it goes on. I will say one of the things that I most appreciate about working at the national level is I'm a Democrat. I have super good friends that are Republicans. Both sides think that we have solutions that move the ball forward. And, unfortunately, sometimes that has turned into some real acrimony in the discussions. But I will say at National Association of Realtors, maybe it's because we're so housing driven, we're protecting consumers. We have we have a real focus on that. Like, one of my best friends on executive committees, this guy, Bob Turner in Memphis, Tennessee, staunch Republican. We sit together at every executive committee breakfast and lunch, and we tease each other. We have fun with each other. But I've learned so much about Bob, about what sustainability means and protecting his land for the 1,000 acres that he owns and what it means to him. And he's learned a lot from me about what my feelings about sustainability are, the impact on the grid and energy efficiency and renewable energy. And we exchange these conversations together in a rich and honest way. And I just wish American politics that we could get back to that. And I think our trade organization does that really well. That's why we call ourselves the Purple Party, right? So whenever you invest in RPAC, 50% of that money goes to Democrat, 50% go to Republicans that all support housing initiatives. That's our driver. So I just wanted to close with that in terms of what politics are as well. Stacey.
100%.
Thanks for letting me, talk about this stuff. I appreciate it.
All right, good stuff. Let's get back to some more marketing stuff for you guys. Next, before we have Sergio come on and give you a little marketing overview, I wanted to go back to this page that I had skipped over. So there is a button here that says layer signs, apparel, and business cards. I think it says, hold on, let me just double check what that said. just so you guys can get back to it. Signs, apparel, and print marketing. So if you go to that page, if you're a Lair agent, there's all these places where you can buy like Lair swag, Lair signs, Lair sweatshirts, etc. But if you scroll down to the very bottom there's some really cool technologies that everybody needs to know about. The number one is MLSmailings.com. I'm a fan of mailings because definitely we have to use email for communication, but email is so clogged. It's really hard to get a message across through email these days because there's so much coming at you in email. I kind of wish they charged people for email, like the number of emails you send and the number that you open, things like that, so that we get more good content. But since email's free, it's really hard to be heard and seen in email. So that's why I think that mailers are a good way to become noticed in your business. And MLS mailings is one great way to be noticed because what this does, it is just listed and just sold postcards with a twist. The twist is it hooks right into your MLS. So it's set it and forget it. You basically tell the system, once you have it all set up, you've put in your photo, your logo, your branding, and then you tell the system, hey, every time I get a new listing, I want 100 postcards to go to all the surrounding neighbors. Every time I do a buy-side sale, I want 100 postcards to go to all the neighbors. This sets it up and does it automatically for you. You can choose jumbo postcards or a regular size. Regular size postcards are $104 for 100, and jumbo is $136 for 100. And anything that's set it and forget it, by the way, in your business, you should sign up for because over time, in the beginning years of your business, you just want to get some business and get deals closed. But once you start doing 20, 30 transactions a year, then you need to think about scaling. And scaling means you have to find set it and forget it programs. And this is one of those. So I would add this to your list if you don't already have it, because it's so nice and fairly inexpensive to just know that you have a marketing platform that's sending out these postcards automatically for you every time you list or sell a property. Second is thepersonalmarketingcompany.com. This one is a game changer as well. So this is another one I'm going to say, add this to your list of things that you're going to do. And by the way, they have tons of different products here. I always click on the wrong one. Nope, it's not this one. I always click on the wrong one. But basically here it is, the automated client follow-up. All right, this is the one. First of all the personal marketing company things are awesome. All of their marketing stuff is awesome, but the one specifically, and this is because the National Association of Realtors does the home buyer and home seller survey every year. And typically what they find out is that something like 89% of people who get surveyed after their closing say they would definitely use their real estate agent again if they were to buy or sell another house. But in reality, only like 11% actually use the same real estate agent again when they go buy or sell another house. And in my opinion, that is because many clients get forgotten. So you work so hard on a transaction to get it to the closing table, like man hours galore into getting this transaction closed. And once it's closed, you're like, holy cow, I got to go do this again. I got to go find another buyer or another seller. I got to keep the transactions coming in. And so you don't do anything with the one that just closed because most likely they're not going to do anything for a few years. So I can put that on the back burner for now. But you can't put it on the back burner because that's where people get forgotten. So the personal marketing company is a really nice system to set up for your business. And for $48, this is a one-time charge of $48. They put your client into a 5-year marketing campaign. So over 5 years, your past customer gets 21 mailings from you. Some of these are letters, some are little magazines with your picture on the front, and some are postcards. But most important, you're not forgetting about the client. Even if technically you forgot about the client, it doesn't look like you forgot about the client. So the intention of this is for a very minimal amount, $48, you are staying in touch with somebody for 5 years, because on average, how often do people sell a house? Every 5 years. So at least you're staying in touch during the time, so that if the person is thinking 4 years out, I'm thinking about selling my house, you remain top of mind. Wise Pelican, also a great place for postcards. I kind of love Wise Pelican for a few different reasons. Number one, they hook directly to your MLS. So if you want to do like a nice brochures or a postcard, it takes 2 seconds. You can do it right from MLS. You just put in the MLS number, it pulls over all the photos and stuff like that. I also like the fact that as a mailing company, they realize how important the call to action is. Many mailing companies don't have a call to action. They don't insist upon a call to action on your mailer, but the call to action is what gets people turns like a person into a potential lead. So what Wise Pelican does is, even if you don't have like your own system, if you're a layer agent, you're probably using Fellow or something like that. So you could do a QR code taking people right to your CRM. But let's say you don't have a CRM. Wise Pelican will still create the QR code for you, and they will set up a system where you can do a postcard that says get a free CMA, scan the code to get market analysis on your home, and it will send you the lead. So it creates like this little landing page for you and forwards you all of the leads, which is super convenient if you don't have your own CRM. Yellow Letters Complete. Did we fix this link? Yes, okay. This is a company that does you can order handwritten stuff, like handwritten yellow letters, which some agents use for like distressed properties. And also you can do like personal note cards, handwritten personal note cards. And RSP, data driven marketing, this is a big one in Florida, because we have so many condo associations in Florida. So in Florida, you could do like, just like you see right here, like the Kingsview market update, where it's got your picture, your contact information, a little bio about you, and then it shows the person all the recent sales and the amount that they sold for in their area. So just some really nice marketing options so that you continue to stand out in your business. So I want to spend a little bit of extra time there. And then Sergio, are you there?
Yep.
Okay, good. Sergio is going to give us a quick rundown of some additional marketing resources. And then when you come back, we're going to dig into some of the training, business systems to help you get your business to 30 plus transactions a year. So take it away, Sergio.
All right. Thanks, Stacy. All right. So I'm going to cover a couple of things that are available just for our layer agents. You do need to be a layer agent to be part of one of these programs, but I'll go quick. A couple of things. First is our layer marketing bundle powered by Zara. We recently transitioned over to our Zara marketing platform, and we're using it to power our marketing bundles. So whenever you have a new listing, we will send you an email. That looks kind of what you see on screen. It will generate marketing pieces, with the MLS data, and then send them to you through an email, which then you can access through your Zara profile. We do this for new listings, but we also do under agreement, just sold, And you can also run these a la carte. Like you can always go into your Zara account and run one of these manually. So I'll do a little demo on how we can do this. Now, I did do a in-depth class on Zara yesterday, and we're going to be uploading that to our YouTube channel. And then also look out for our newsletter, our training newsletter that we have through LinkedIn on our Layer Realty LinkedIn account, where we kind of recap all of the trainings that we had throughout the week, and we also give you links to those videos. But you can always find them on our YouTube channel as well. That class, that training does go more in depth into, sort of how to sign in, some of those features. But for now, I'm just going to go over, give you a good overview of what it looks like to access those listings, and also access some of the other templates. So first, whenever we create one of these, it will show up under your My Listings section. Now, if you had a listing, we recently rolled this program out. So it's been around 3 months. So if you do have a listing that maybe you listed 6 months before, it won't show up here, but you can always run one manually. Now you will find it here, but I can run a manual playbook by going to playbooks and then choosing one of these options. We have just listed, just sold, open house. One that we don't quite yet generate automatically yet is the open house. We are working on that, but for the other ones, they will be generated automatically. But again, you can always go in and do these manually. For example, we have just listed. You just click on this generate button. You want to paste in the MLS number of the listing. It's going to search the MLS and then pull up your listing. Now, you should see it automatically. It does grab the information from the MLS. Let me see if I can pull this one up. It's not letting me click in here. I'm gonna refresh. It does pull the information from the MLS just like other services. So if you hit go on your listing or you made it active, it won't show up right away. You can give it a few minutes or a few hours. There we go. So it found this one, right? You'll see this photo. Click next. It does pull up the listing agents along with their photo. And then we're going to click on Run Playbook. Now, the playbook does take some time for it to generate. It can take 5-6 minutes for it to generate. So you can take some time to get a coffee. Or you can generate one in the morning and then come back later. It will send you an email once the playbook has been generated. So let's see if we can find a listing that we already created. Here we have a listing in Athol. We generated one for an open house. So this is one that we created before. Again, it'll generate material that fits what you're doing. In this case, it's an open house, so you're not going to get like a postcard, but you will get the social media pieces. The great part about, for example, the social media pieces is that you can go in and edit any of this. And just like Canva, if you hit edit, it will open right up. And just like Canva, you're able to edit any part of your design. You can move things around, you can make things bigger, you can add different photos. One difference from Canva, however, is that Zara is connected to the MLS, right? So it will automatically bring in all of the pictures that you have on the MLS. So for example, we have this open house social media piece, we can bring in some of the interior photos just by dragging and dropping them from this tray. The way to access this is by clicking on this real estate button, right? And then clicking listing photos. And then we can kind of choose our pictures, drag and drop them just like that. Now, if I click back again on this real estate button, it not only brings in the listing photos, but also more listing information. So if you want to add more information about the listing, you can add it there. It also keeps track of the agent. So if you want to bring in the agent photo, it's all right there for you to use. Once that's ready, I can download this to my computer as a PNG and then post on social media, or I can share it directly to social media from Zara. So, for example, we have one of our Facebook accounts here connected. I manage a bunch of Facebook pages. That's one thing to look out for, is that you do need a Facebook page to post these, right? It won't post to a personal account. Now, you can post to your Facebook page and then share it through your personal accounts, and that's kind of what we recommend. So you do need to set one up beforehand. But once you have it connected, you don't have to go through the whole process. Now, one thing it will do is it will generate a caption using AI, right? It'll grab the data from, for example, this is the open house. It'll grab the open house data. It'll grab the features of the home, and then maybe a little message. Some of them do add your contact information as well. This is done with AI, so of course you want to go through, make sure that everything is right. It's not violating any fair housing things. If you don't like it, you can click on rewrite caption. It'll generate another one, but you can also go in and edit, add or remove things. Sometimes it'll generate hashtags. You can add hashtags as you see fit. When you're ready to post, you just click on this post button and it will post directly on your page. I'm not going to do it in this case, but you can also link up your Instagram and your LinkedIn. So all directly from the Zara platform, you can create your piece, you can edit it, you can add, remove pictures, you can make things bigger if you want, and then you can post directly to social media. Now we also generate flyers. Let me see if that that listing is ready. Again, you do receive an email. I believe it was 3 Serafinas Way. It looks like everything is ready. We have one for just listed. We also have some flyers and brochures that you can print out. You can download these as PDFs. You can always go in and edit. Again, you can move around the pictures as you'd like, as you see fit. And then when you're done, you can print it out. You can hit print. You can print at an office, at any of our offices, or at home. You can send this over to ExpressDocs if you have an ExpressDocs account, just by clicking and then following the directions. Now, aside from our marketing pieces that we have for your listings, we also have some other templates. So if you go down to this templates section, we have a bunch of templates that we just keep updating. A lot of the ones that you saw for Canva, we're porting over or have already been ported over for Zara. For example, the agent branding package is all here. And again, it grabs all of your information from your account. Now, this is for Layer Agent, so you most likely already have one of these. If you don't, if you're not able to access it, you haven't yet, and you need your information to sign in, send in an email to Happy Agent. We can make sure you can get in. One of the first things you should do when you sign in is to edit your profile. So up here, you click on the drop down and then edit profile. Here's where you want to add your MLS ID. You can update your photo yourself, right? You don't have to reach out to us to change your photo. You can do it yourself here. And then you can add the rest of your information, right? So your website, Instagram, Facebook, etc. Now, it grabs that information and uses it in the smart fields for the template. So, for example, we have content for our branding package. It'll grab your information, your name, your photo, and then generate one of these. We also have access to Zara's own templates. So, they have a whole library of other templates. And while the preview photos look like they have different colors and branding, whenever you open up a new template, the template itself will be branded to Layer, right? So one of the first steps is to apply the brand. So once this loads, you'll see that it'll come in with all of the Layer colors and logos, as well as the information that you have in your profile. In this case, it'll ask for an MLS ID, so let's give it one. This is the agent, so we can add that information. And just like that, we have our agents. Now, in any of these, you can go in and click. There's like a little hand icon that you can use to kind of adjust your photo. So, maybe you don't want it to be cut off, but you can do any of that within here. Now, this is a template for a door hanger. You can send this and you can download this as a PDF and print it out somewhere. But like I mentioned before, they do have a direct connection with the Express Docs. Right. So let's say they'll give you different print options. In this case, it's a door hanger. I can continue, hit print, right? And it will actually send this over to Express Docs. You can set up an account. It's very straightforward. You are doing all of the ordering yourself. You add in your shipping information as well as your credit card information. And just like that, I'm able to just place an order, have them shipped to my house directly all from Zara. So that's Zara. I will go over another program that we have for our agents, and it's our monthly social media system. So every month, at the beginning of the month, on the first of the month, we will send social media pieces. These are 6 to 8 social media pieces that cover 4 weeks of content. And then on top of that, you always have access to our social media library. We compiled 5 years worth of social media pieces. It ends up being more than 1,000 pieces that cover buyers, sellers, holidays. We have Facebook covers, mindset, and motivational quotes. And you can find those all on our Layer Agent Services page. The monthly social media, however, you will receive as a Layer agent an email and a text message. The email looks just like this. Like I mentioned, we have 4 weeks of content that you can download. It's very easy. You can just download the piece itself. We also have Canva templates where you can go in and customize them. You can add your own logo. You can switch around the photos. And then we also include a suggested caption. You can use this sort of as a starting point. Obviously, you want to add your own contact information, your own local insight. And so that is our social media pieces. If you don't see this as a Layer agent, either the content from Zara or the content from a social media, let us know. Email us in to happyagent@layerrealty.com. That's it for me.
All right, thank you, Sergio.
Yep.
All right, let's go back. We are gonna go back to the, hold on. I'm gonna pull back up our Layer Agent Services where we have spent much of the morning, but we're gonna move over to another section of the Layer Agent Services. So where we've spent the entire morning so far is under marketing, branding, and presentations. I want to remind you to be focusing on your list of things to do. 5 to 10 items that you're going to go execute on, because that is where the true power of today's program is in execution. So hopefully you have written down your buyer presentation, your seller presentation, a buyer guide, seller guide, investor guide, and maybe also checking out that site to check out the National Association of Realtors for opportunities to volunteer. Also, your MLS mailings, and all of that was under signs, apparel, and marketing. MLS mailing, setting that up so you have your postcards going out on new listings and solds, and also your marketing for $48. We'll go down here through the personal marketing company, just to make sure that every time you close on a transaction, you're staying in touch for 5 years. Everything I just said, those are all a great place to start your checklist of things you're going to execute on after you leave today. But let's head over to our agent growth and development section. Under classes, meetings, and coaching, we have a lot of things for you to take a look at. Number one, the Lair Boot Camp, which you've already arrived there. And you can always go watch this, by the way, whenever you want. If you go down here to the YouTube training channel, in fact, do this now if you can. Under our YouTube training channel, it's youtube.com/Lair Training. You are going to find hundreds and hundreds of great classes. Just like our marketing pieces, we don't put junk out. Like there's a lot of really poor training out there, but we put out really strong content every single month. There's hundreds. I think there's 300 or 400 classes on our YouTube station. If you go and subscribe to it now, you'll never miss anything because the system will just ping you every time. It'll send a little notification to your phone that a new class was just uploaded. Because every month we have all kinds of classes from lead generation. We did one this month on how to build your sphere of influence, dominating Facebook, situational awareness safety class for real estate agents, the pumpkin pie playbook on how to deliver your pie event, marketing with Zara classes. Everything you need is on our YouTube station. So head over and subscribe. It's youtube.com/Lair Training so you never miss anything. That link is under here, under classes, meetings, and coaching. Couple other things I wanted to point out here. If you click on our training calendar, you could see all of our upcoming training classes, which are open to agents of all firms. So if you head over to our calendar, you'll see we have a pretty full agenda of classes every single month. If you scroll down to the bottom of this calendar, you can actually integrate our calendar with your calendar. That means that when you open your calendar, so there's an integration for if you use Google, and there's an integration for if you use iCal. So when you open your calendar, you'll see our upcoming classes. These are all our live classes. So these are all by Zoom. And they're with live instructors. So if you have questions, you can type them into the chat box and interact with the person delivering the class. And then after each live Zoom, we then put the recording over at YouTube. And then go back again. And a couple other things. Some of you have probably already been following our Quantum Sparks class. This happens every Monday. These are short, like 20 to 30-minute classes, and they're all about mindset and energy because your success in real estate, yes, you have to be able to like have organization, you have to be able to present, you have to be able to do all the things a real estate agent does. But what predicts your success more than anything else is your energy. So this talks about the Quantum Sparks program each week focuses on a very specific area of energy and how you can utilize energy in your business. If you are a Lair agent, we also have a phenomenal coaching program you can sign up for here. It's all based on our Algorwin program, which I'll go through in a minute with everyone. Also, we have our Lair Elite Agent app. So if you're a Lair agent, you can access our Elite Agent app here. All of our training is inside the app. For agents outside our brokerage, all of our classes are on our YouTube station. If you're at Lair, we urge you to go to the Agently app because it allows us to better organize all the classes into system, basically tracks. So that if you want to, for example, be really strong with due diligence, you could take a due diligence track and it's just all the classes that pertain to that. If you want to focus on social media, you could take a social media track. So go log into our Elite Agent app. And there's other kinds of resources here as well. I want to go back down to Agent Growth and Development and click on Business Plans and Growth Systems. Under here, one of the pieces that I'm most proud of in our company over the last few years is our agent development program. We wrote a system for building a successful real estate business, and the system is called Algorwin. And basically, the idea of this is that there is an algorithm to success in real estate. That if you do certain things, you can expect a certain result. So we wrote this entire program is based on 7 simple checklists. The checklists are 12 things you do once a year, 9 things you do once a month, 9 things you do once a week, 9 things you do at a buyer appointment, 9 things you do at a seller appointment, 9 things you do when you have a new listing, and 9 things you do at your events, home buyer events or client appreciation events. So we wrote a whole workbook that walks you through building a successful real estate business, and it's called the Algorwin program. So you can actually download our book here under layerrealty.com/12-week Algorwin. You can download the book. Anybody can get access to the book. It'll print into a PDF as well. Some agents like to have the course material that goes with the program. So some agents can work through the book without watching the classes. If you want an extra level of support on how to build the program, because the goal of the program is to get you to 30 transactions a year. That's a lot of transactions, but we have seen results with the program if you actually follow the program. So if you want an extra level of support, you can go take these 12 classes. It's 12 one-hour classes that go with the program. And then the third component, if you want accountability, then you can sign up for our coaching program. And that means that you'll meet with a coach twice a month for 6 months who will help you identify the reasons why you're not completing the program. We also have under here, under the business planning tools, a traditional business plan. This is kind of like the typical plan you would see if you go Google the word business plan for real estate agents. And then last but not least, we also created a simple plan. This is a third version of a business plan where it has you focus. Here's the idea of the simple plan. In order to make a massive shift in the amount of business you're doing, you have to become a different version of yourself. The version who you are now got you to where you are right now, but to get to the next level, you need to become a different version of you. So the simple plan really dissects who you are at this minute that got you to where you are right now. And then it helps you create an avatar of the type of person you need to become in order to get to the next level. So it's all within you. Anything you decide you want to do, you can 100% do. But this helps you begin exploring to create awareness on the areas that you need to focus on to get to the next level of your business. And then we also have a box here for continuing ed classes. Those are just online with the CE Shop. It's like a partnership we have with CE Shop. I like using CE Shop because they save all of your certificates, but also because if you're like me and you're licensed in multiple states, it will tell you when the class you're taking can apply to some of the other states that you're in, so that you're not having to take a zillion CE courses because you're licensed in 5 states. Instead, many of the classes apply to all the states that you are in, or at least some of the states that you're licensed in. All right, down here we have some technology tools, and I think where we will go next is I wanted to, under the technology tools, let's go there for a second. As a layer agent, one of the things agents ask when they join our brokerage is, are there any monthly expenses associated with being with the brokerage? At our firm, we have an optional $39 per month tech bundle. And for $39, you get 3 different products: Fellow, Boston Logic, and Real Scout. Fellow is a phenomenal tool for developing your database. In other words, what it does is many agents have these databases, names and email addresses of people who they've worked with or they know or who are acquaintances. And what Fellow does, you put everybody into the database. Fellow will send them an updated home value report every 2 weeks. So every 2 weeks, they'll get an email from you saying, here's the current value of your property. It is automated. So it lets them know that it's an automated valuation. In fact, it tells them that they should talk to a real estate agent to get the actual valuation of the property. So Fellow has been a game changer for many of our agents because it takes a stagnant database and it starts interacting with people, because most people do want to know how much their property is worth. Secondly, on the back end of Fellow, it tells you, it ranks your database. So you could see the people most likely going to sell their house in the next 12 months. So it helps you now then take your database of 200 people and say, okay, these are the 10 people most likely going to sell their house in the next 12 months. The Boston Logic is an agent website. And the third part is Real Scout, which I'm going to have Ashley give you a quick demo of. Only because if you think about what we said this morning during that buyer presentation, that we do not want our clients going to Zillow to look at real estate. That's not good. We want to make sure that we remain in control of the client at Zillow. So we use Real Scout to do that. That is our property search platform. So I'm going to have Ashley from our tools team give you a quick demo on how Real Scout can work for your business. Because even if you're not a Lair agent, it's a really cool tool that can help you with your property showings.
Hello, everyone. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Right. Come on. There we go. Now it's allowing me to share. Okay. So what I like to do with Real Scout is I tell my buyers that Real Scout is a more friendly version, a more easy to read version than MLS. And one of my biggest pet peeves about MLS is you can only like or dislike a property. Real Scout allows your clients to like and dislike certain features, certain amenities, whether it be the neighborhood, the kitchen, the location, the yard, the price, etc. And you get all of that in your live feed. So even before you have to pick up your phone and talk to your client about that property, you're already going to know their likes and dislikes about it without having a conversation with them. So I put together a little quick 10-step guide. There's an app for everything right nowadays. So of course there's an app for Real Scout. Now there's a client app and there's an agent app. So if you are an agent, you're going to want to download the Real Scout agent dashboard. Your logo is going to be a black background with a white house. And the dead giveaway for the agent is if it doesn't have the pro banner across the top, see down below where it just has the white background with the black house and it just says Real Scout Home Search. If you're an agent and you download the Real Scout Home Search and you try to get in, it's not going to allow you to get in. You're going to have to download the Real Scout agent dashboard. So there's two different apps. So you want to make sure if you're an agent, you download the agent one. Now, what if you say, Ashley, I'm an agent, but I set myself up as a client. Can I download both apps? You can. You can download both apps because you're going to have a separate username and separate password for each account. Now, is there a way I can use Real Scout to market myself? Of course there is. So in the middle of Real Scout's platform, when you log in, you're going to see something that says Market My Real Scout Platform. If you click on that, it's going to give you two links. So the first link is a client search page where you can engage prospective buyers to generate new leads. The second link is an onboarding link where you can invite them to create a search and they can create a search themselves. what you can do with these links is if you are using any of the marketing systems Stacy talked about, such as Yellow Letters Complete, and you're sending, a handwritten letter to your neighborhood, you can use one of these links and create a QR code, and all they'd have to do is scan the QR code with their phone, type in their information. All of their information is going to go into your Real Scout account. So I'm not going to see somebody that registers under Stacy's Real Scout account, and she's not going to see somebody that registers under mine. It goes directly to that agent's Real Scout account because each link has that agent's name right in the link. So the links are going to vary if it's the onboarding link or if it's the client search page. Verifying your MLS. What if I'm in Real Scout and I have more than one license, such as myself? I'm licensed in Maine, New Hampshire, and Mass. I have all 3 licenses. So the way to tell is if you're in a multiple MLS search or just one MLS is this data feed property class right here when you go to set up an alert. So if you are in multiple MLSs, and let's say you have a client that just wants to look in New Hampshire, you're going to click on the drop down, and then you're just going to select whatever MLS your client wants to search in. So if it's Mass, if it's New Hampshire Prime MLS, they break it down into categories. So if you have somebody who wants to look for a commercial sale, you're going to have to scroll down to Prime MLS commercial sale, whereas other states such as Maine and Massachusetts, they have it all clumped together for you to subcategorize once you get to the search criteria fields to set them up. New Hampshire does it differently where you need to select it before you can get to the criteria fields. How to add a new client, super simple. There's add contact /alert button on the top right. Enter their email. I always enter their first name and their last name, just in case you have more than one client with the same first name. You want to make sure you're talking to say the right Ashley or say the right Stacy, right? You don't want to get your clients confused. And then Real Scout rolled out what they call tags. I think last year they rolled this out where you can tag them as a buyer, a seller, buyer, and seller, or other. So once you create that initial alert section, it's going to bring you to the criteria fields where you would just go in like you were doing a search in MLS. You would fill in their minimum price, their max price, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, their cities that they want to be in, the counties that they want to be in. Now, if you have, say, a large database in a spreadsheet, can you upload that spreadsheet to Real Scout? You can. So you would click over on the left hand side where the navigation panel is, you would click contacts, and then you would come over here and you would click import contacts, and then it's going to bring up a window for you to select the file that you want to upload. So if you do have a CSV file, or if you were, say, at a different brokerage and you took your database with you, you can upload that database to Real Scout instead of individually inputting them one by one. Unique ways to search. You can draw your own outline. You can draw a polygon. You can do a rectangle. You can do a radius. Now, what I will say is if you are drawing your own shape, you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, let's just say 4 points. But your fourth point is going to have to be connected back to your first point, because if you do not connect your last point to your first point, the shape is not going to close and it's not going to search that area. It's going to give you an error because the shape is not defined. A radius could be, so for somebody, if you have somebody who works in the medical field and they need to be, say, within 15 miles of the hospital they work at, you can go ahead, zoom in on the map, find relatively where that hospital is, and then go out 15 miles from there. And when you are drawing the radius, it'll tell you how many miles you are going out. So there's different ways that you can search in Real Scout versus MLS. If you have somebody who has a child that needs to go to a specific school or specific school district, you can search by that in Real Scout. You can search by zip code, county, condo association name, development name, subdivision name. So all different ways that you can search within Real Scout. Now, let's say you have a client who starts off their budget, say their min budget is 500 and they want to go to 600 as their max, but then they're not finding what they want. They want to increase their budget to say 650. Super simple to come into Real Scout, update that. So over on the left on the navigation panel, you would click on the contacts button. You would then click on the contact name. So if I was updating my search for myself, I would click on my name. It's gonna bring up any alert that you have set up for that client. And then for the list and alert, say that's the alert you're gonna edit. You just click edit over on the right-hand side. Once you click edit, it's gonna bring up all of the listens that currently are matched to that client. To edit the filter or the criteria, you just click edit filters, and then it's gonna bring up the criteria fields again. You update whatever criteria you have to update, and then you click save. Once you click save, it's gonna ask, do you wanna send these new matches? You can send them, or you can say do not send, and you can look at them, and then you can manually send them to the client. So that's how you can update a client search or any alert. It's the same idea, just depends on the alert. Auto nurture for clients. So I like this feature because it means that you can not worry if your clients are not getting matched to a lot of properties. So the auto nurture is a great way to keep in touch with your clients. So it's kind of a set it and forget it system, right? We love set it and forget it systems. And it's also a drip campaign. So if there's not enough data, auto nurture will create an email campaign with relevant listings. So example, if you create a search for somebody and they start looking at, say, 3-bedroom, 1-bath versus 3-bed, 2-bath properties, Real Scout will start to send them 3-bed, 2-bath and 3-bed, 1-bath properties, and you will be notified as well as to what they're looking at. So that's a little different. Now, Real Scout also has a monthly market activity report. I say what you can use for buyers, you can use for sellers. So this is a report that if you have somebody who's looking, say, in the town of Dracut, and you wanted to know how many active buyers there have been within the past 30 days for, say, a specific part of Dracut, you could draw on the map, or you could just do the entire town. Now, this report is only from data that's within Real Scout. It doesn't take into account any data from MLS. So this will tell you, okay, there's been, say, 500 active buyers within the past 30 days. There's been 450 buyer interactions. Now, it's also going to give you how many active buyers there were on a specific day. It's also going to tell you the top viewed listings, anything that was recently listed, anything that was recently sold. So what I do before I write an offer, I come and I run this report for, say, the specific neighborhood or that specific side of town that my clients are writing the offer for. So if it's a top viewed property, we might structure our offer differently. I might have a conversation with the lender. Can you do a 21-day close instead of the traditional 30, right? You might do, say, a home inspection cap. So anything less than, say, 2,500, we're not going to come back to the sellers for, but if it's over that 2,500, we'll come back and negotiate with the seller, right? So you can use this report to make your offer more attractive to the sellers. Now, how can you use it for sellers? You can use it to accurately price a property. So if you have clients that think their house is way up here, say at 550, but your CMA, all of your research that you've done shows that it should be down here at 475, you can pull this same exact report it's gonna give you all of the information that you would use for your buyers, right? So you can say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, this is what's been going on in your neighborhood for the past 30 days. This is a map of where all the hot properties are, right? So your house is over here, but all the hot properties are over here on the other side of town. You may have one or two listings that are on, Mr. and Mrs. Seller side, like this one straggler right here, that was a hot property, but it might not be enough to justify the price that they think their house is worth. So you can use this report to kind of bring them back to say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, this is what's going on in the market. This is where the market's saying you should price your property. Why is Real Scout better than a website such as Zillow, Realtor.com, Trulia? I don't even know what other third-party home search engines there are now, because there's so many of them. So it's an above average search experience, not only for the client, but for the agent. New property alerts daily that are accurate. They're not, outdated when you have a client that goes to Zillow, right? Another reason to have your clients stay off of Zillow is Real Scouts update automatically, right? So whenever a property goes under contract, it's going to reflect under contract in Real Scout. It's not going to lag. The property search emails are filled with photos. You can thumbs up, thumbs down property ratings, right? It has an algorithm for the client to find the perfect home. There's a mobile app, right, for the agent and the client, and it integrates with major real estate lead platforms. So if you say use Realtor.com, there's a way you can link your Real Scout to your Realtor.com account. And then the last page I have is just Zillow. If you're not talking about Zillow, why you should tell your clients not to use Zillow. As Stacy mentioned earlier, it's not accurate. You can only search by $50,000 increments, and Zillow's not, they're not there for the client like we are. They're there to get their information and sell it. So with that, I'm going to give it back to Stacy. And if you are a Lair agent and you do have the tech bundle and you have any questions on Real Scout, I'm going to put a link in the chat where you can book a one-on-one briefing with me. And we can go over any questions you have about Real Scout, Fellow, the website. Back to you, Stacy.
Awesome stuff. Let me go back to. Let's go back to Lair Agent Services just for a moment. Since that's where we spent the entire day, we covered everything for the most part on this site. I just want to point out that at the very bottom under the agent toolbox, we have a whole section for sustainability. So if you are focused on sustainability as a niche for your business, we have some amazing tools under there. We also have a whole house here of information on agent safety. So just this month, in fact, we did a phenomenal program on situational awareness. Highly recommend that you go check out all of the resources available for agent safety. If you're a Lair agent, we also have a button here for getting paid in case you haven't closed a transaction with us yet. All of the way that you request a commission payment is under the getting paid section. And down at the very bottom, we have our brokerage blog. This is mostly stuff for real estate agents. So for example, when we put out our stats each month, you can go check out number of closings we had, also top agents for each of the markets that we do business in, things like that. So that's our Lair Agent Services page. I do want to head back to our Lair Program and Services Guide, just as let's see. I'm going to go back and reshare this. So as you remember, we started the morning going through all the marketing and branding stuff available to great real estate agents. We talked a little bit this afternoon or before, right before noon, about some of the great technology available at Lair. Specifically the Fellow CRM program that helps you organize your database so that instead of 200 stagnant leads in your database, it'll tell you the ones that are most likely engaging and interested in selling their property. The Boston Logic website. And then you got to hear from Ashley on Real Scout for the property search. We then also talked about career development. One of the things that we have put together to help agents really perform in their business is first our Lair Elite Agent app, which is a place where we've organized all of our training classes. Plus, we have a setup so that you can track your goals and things like that. We're extremely proud of our Algorwin system, our step-by-step system to building a successful real estate practice. First, we have the workbook, which you can download. We also have 12-week class that you can take with that at lairrealty.com/12-week Algorwin. And for those who are interested in coaching, we also have a phenomenal coaching program, and it's all based on that Algorwin system. And then for Lair agents, this is our newest exciting release, which is our Lair Force app, which is a job posting app. So if you need an agent to cover an open house for you or to cover a property showing, things like that, you can post it on the Lair Force app and it will notify agents in that marketplace. And also, in addition to all the training that we do throughout the year, we also do bring in guest speakers throughout the year. For example, 2 years ago, we brought in Tom Ferry for live events. We last year had the amazing Michael Mayer, who wrote the 7 Levels of Communication, deliver a 6-month training program to our agents. This year, we had Lee Brown offer a wonderful class for our agents. There's always great stuff to participate in at Lair. The final piece of this program guide is just all the support services. So most important, if you're a Lair agent, we want you to know that our support team is available 7 days a week. If you need anything, email it to happyagent@lairrealty.com. That goes into our support dashboard. And the reason we have all of our support requests go there, from marketing questions, deal help, negotiation help, whatever you need help with, email it to Happy Agent so it lands in the dashboard, and we can always, once it ends up there, it gets assigned to the staff member best suited to answer your question quickly and knowledgeably. But also as an organization, it allows us to track and make sure that every agent gets the help they need. And as well, we use some great technology just to make life easy at Lair. So Earnest and Deposit Link, we use e-checks. There's a great page in this program guide with companies that you can go sign up for leads for. On the left-hand side, it's all the referral fee-based lead platforms. And on the right side, it's all the subscription-based lead platforms. I'm a huge fan of referral fee-based lead platforms as a supplement to what you're already doing in your business. And there's a page in here about our sustainability team, why we enjoy being realtors. And then you're already well aware of our boot camp because you're at the end of our monthly boot camp. And then last but not least, if you're a Lair agent, you're welcome to use any of our office locations. You can go to lairrealty.com/office access and click which office you would like to get into. The system will email you the key code entry for whatever office you're seeking to visit. And finally, if you are not a Lair agent and you're interested in learning more about the tools, the training, the technology, I'd love to have a private one-on-one conversation with you to show you how we've helped many agents grow amazing careers in real estate, and we would love to help you as well. With that, we are at 11:54, 5 minutes early today. So thank you to Ashley, Craig, and Sergio for delivering a great boot camp this month. And I cannot even believe it's the end of the year. I can't even believe there's only one boot camp left until 2026. So thank you everybody for joining us for a wonderful program today and wishing you a wonderful holiday season. Thanks everyone.